Every January, millions of people sit down with a notebook or a phone app or a shiny new planner they bought from Amazon and they write down their resolutions. This is the year I'll finally lose weight. This is the year I'll quit smoking. This is the year I'll read more, meditate, start my side hustle, travel, be more positive, save money. And for about 2 weeks, sometimes 3, people go all in. The gyms are full. The diet apps are downloaded. The journals are open. The YouTube productivity videos get a few million extra views. But then February rolls around and suddenly the gyms are empty again. The journals are shoved into drawers. The diets collapse under the weight of pizza deliveries. And people find themselves right back where they started. The truth, most New Year's resolutions fail. In fact, studies say about 80 to 90% fail within the first 3 months. That means out of 10 people setting goals in January, by March, maybe one of them is still hanging on. So the real question isn't, how do I make better resolutions? The real question is, why do resolutions fail in the first place? And what actually sticks? And that's what I want to dig into today. Most people believe that the fuel for success is motivation. It's that rush of energy you feel on January 1st when you tell yourself this is the year everything changes. You feel pumped after watching a motivational video, reading an inspiring post, or hearing someone else's success story. It gives you goosebumps, it gets you moving, and for a while it feels like you're unstoppable. But then life does what it always does. It throws problems, stress, and boredom right back into the mix. Suddenly, that fire you felt in your chest is gone, and you're left wondering why you can't seem to stay consistent. The truth is, motivation is like a sugar rush. It feels good for a little while. It gives you a spike of energy, but it inevitably crashes. And when it crashes, if you don't have something stronger holding you up, you stop. That's why so many New Year's resolutions collapse in a matter of weeks. People assume motivation will be there every morning when they wake up, but it won't. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unpredictable. You can't depend on them because they're influenced by too many external factors. One day you're in a good mood and you want to go to the gym. The next day you're stressed from work and suddenly Netflix feels more important than your workout. One day you're excited to eat healthy and the next day you're exhausted and grabbing fast food on the way home. If your commitment to change is tied to how motivated you feel, you're guaranteed to fail because no one feels motivated all the time. The people who succeed aren't the ones who are constantly motivated. They're the ones who do the work even when they don't feel like it. They've learned to act independently of their emotions. That's the real difference. Think about it. Everyone has experienced that initial spark of motivation. We've all written down goals, made promises to ourselves, and felt inspired by the idea of change. But if motivation was enough, gyms would stay full all year, self-help books wouldn't keep repeating the same advice, and success would be easy. It's not. Motivation is great for starting, but it's terrible for sustaining. That's why you can be excited on January 1st and completely disinterested by February 1st. The excitement wears off, and when it does, there's nothing left to push you forward. The people who actually reach their goals don't rely on motivation at all. They rely on systems, habits, and routines. They build a structure around themselves so that even on the days they don't feel like showing up, the path of least resistance is still progress. A runner who trains daily doesn't wait for inspiration. They lace up their shoes because that's what they do. A writer who publishes consistently doesn't wait until they feel creative. They sit down and write because it's part of their system. A person who saves money successfully doesn't wait until they're inspired to budget. They automate it so it happens no matter what mood they're in. The mistake most people make with resolutions is they think they can ride the wave of motivation for months. But waves always crash. When the high disappears, they feel like failures. The truth is they weren't failures. They just never built the foundation needed to carry them when motivation inevitably left. Motivation is nothing more than the spark to light a fire. The fire only stays alive if you feed it daily with discipline, habits, and systems. If you expect motivation to do the feeding for you, the fire dies. When people set New Year's resolutions, they usually go straight for the big, bold goals. They want to lose 50 pounds, run a marathon, quit all bad habits overnight, or transform their lives in a matter of months. On the surface, that ambition feels exciting. It makes you feel powerful to declare something massive, as if saying it out loud or writing it in a journal gives you authority over your future. But this is where the trap begins. Big goals create an enormous amount of pressure, and with that pressure comes resistance. The brain interprets this sudden leap as a threat, and instead of energizing you, it overwhelms you. That's why you often start strong for a week or two, only to burn out and slip right back into your old ways. Imagine someone who hasn't worked out in years suddenly deciding to exercise 6 days a week for 2 hours. At first, the rush of doing something different feels empowering, but soon their body aches, their schedule feels suffocated, and the novelty wears off. The mind begins to rebel. Why am I torturing myself? This is too hard. What started as excitement quickly morphs into resistance because the jump was too big. The same thing happens with diets. People cut out everything they enjoy and go all in on a strict plan. Within days, cravings take over, willpower collapses, and they binge on everything they had sworn off. They assume they're weak, when in reality the goal itself was unsustainable. The reason small goals work better is because they bypass the brain's resistance. Doing one push-up doesn't trigger overwhelm. Reading 2 pages of a book doesn't feel like a burden. Cooking one healthy meal doesn't feel impossible. These small wins may not seem significant in the moment, but they stack up. Over time, the compound effect of small, consistent actions is far greater than the occasional bursts of extreme effort. You might not notice progress day to day, but after weeks or months, the small actions accumulate into visible change. The other issue with big goals is they create an all or nothing mentality. If your resolution is to lose 50 pounds and you've only lost 3 after a month, you might feel like a failure. That disappointment pushes many people to quit altogether because they can't see how small progress fits into the bigger picture. But when the focus shifts from the massive outcome to the small daily action, every win feels like success. Going to the gym once is a victory. Choosing water over soda is a victory. Writing a paragraph is a victory. These small victories build confidence and identity, and they make you want to keep going. Another problem with aiming too high too quickly is that life doesn't slow down for your resolutions. Work stress still exists. Family responsibilities still exist. Unexpected challenges still show up. When your goal requires perfection or massive daily commitment, the first disruption throws everything off. Miss one workout in a 6-day plan and you feel like you've broken the chain, so you give up. Miss one day of writing when you promised yourself you'd write every single day, and suddenly the whole project feels ruined. This rigid structure collapses the moment real life intervenes. Smaller goals, on the other hand, adapt better to life's chaos. If your aim is 1 page a day, missing one isn't catastrophic, you can easily make it up. Big goals also rob people of patience. When you dream about massive change, you expect massive results fast. But real transformation is slow, and the mismatch between your expectations and reality leads to frustration. Small goals align with reality. They acknowledge that meaningful change is gradual and often invisible at first. By lowering the barrier to action, they allow you to show up consistently enough for results to eventually appear. The irony is that most people overestimate what they can achieve in a few months but underestimate what they can achieve in a few years. The 50-pound weight loss, the published book, the marathon finish line, these things are still possible, but only if they're broken down into steps small enough to sustain without burning out. Big goals collapse under their own weight, while small goals carry you forward with steady momentum. When most people set goals, they think in terms of outcomes. They want to lose 20 pounds, save $10,000, or run a marathon. These outcomes sound clear, measurable, and motivating, but they rarely last because they are built on external results rather than internal identity. When the focus is only on what you want to achieve instead of who you want to become, the effort feels temporary, like a sprint you're forcing yourself through, rather than a natural part of your life. That is why so many resolutions collapse once the initial excitement wears off. Identity-based change works differently. Instead of asking, "What do I want to achieve?" you ask, "Who do I want to become?" This subtle shift changes everything because it transforms the behavior from something you do occasionally into something you live out every day. A person who sets a goal to run a marathon may quit after the race because the event is over, but a person who sees themselves as a runner keeps training, keeps running, and keeps improving long after the race is done. The outcome is temporary, but the identity is lasting. Think of someone who wants to quit smoking. If their mindset is, "I'm trying to quit," they are still identifying as a smoker, just one who happens to be resisting cigarettes. But if they say, "I'm not a smoker," their actions align with an identity that doesn't smoke at all. The behavior becomes natural because it's part of who they are, not something they're fighting against. The same applies to fitness, writing, saving money, or learning any new skill. When you embody the identity of the person who already lives that way, the decisions you make are easier and more automatic. The problem with outcome-based goals is they keep you stuck in a gap. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds every day until you hit that number, you are in a state of failure. You're constantly reminding yourself that you're not there yet, and that gap creates frustration. But if your identity shifts to, "I am a healthy person," then every healthy meal, every workout, and every small choice affirms that identity immediately. You don't have to wait until you hit the number to feel successful. You're already living in alignment with who you want to be. Identity also provides resilience when setbacks happen. If your only measure of success is the outcome, then one mistake feels like total failure. If you're trying to save $10,000 and you slip up 1 month, you might feel like you ruined everything. But if your identity is, "I am financially responsible," one mistake doesn't erase that. You simply get back on track because the larger story you're telling yourself hasn't changed. The identity holds steady, and that steadiness is what makes consistency possible. This is why some people appear naturally disciplined. From the outside, it looks like they have endless willpower, but what they really have is a strong identity that drives their choices. A writer doesn't have to force themselves to write because writing is who they are. An athlete doesn't have to beg themselves to train because training is what they do. Their habits are a reflection of their identity, not a battle against it. When you approach change from this perspective, the resolution is no longer a temporary challenge. It becomes a lifestyle shift. You are not trying to hit a target that will eventually expire. You are becoming a person who lives a certain way regardless of deadlines or seasons. Outcomes are achieved and then fade, but identity is built and then reinforced through action. The stronger your identity, the easier it is to keep doing the things that lead to the results you wanted in the first place. Most people approach their resolutions by obsessing over the finish line. They tell themselves they will lose a certain amount of weight, write a certain number of pages, or save a specific amount of money. The goal becomes this giant, glowing target in the distance, and while it can feel inspiring at first, it eventually becomes overwhelming. The further away the finish line feels, the easier it is to lose focus and quit. That's why systems are far more powerful than goals. Systems are the structures, routines, and processes you build into your life that make progress automatic. When you focus on the system instead of the end result, you stop worrying about how far you are from the finish line and start paying attention to the daily steps that actually move you forward. Imagine two people with the same resolution to write a book. The first person says, I need to finish a 300-page manuscript by the end of the year. The second person says, I will write 500 words every morning. The first person is goal-driven. The second is system-driven. Both want the same outcome, but the difference in approach is huge. The goal-driven person will constantly measure their progress against the final number, and the pressure can become paralyzing. If they fall behind for a few weeks, the goal starts to feel impossible. The system-driven person, on the other hand, just shows up each day and does their 500 words. They're not obsessing over the finish line, they're reinforcing a process. And in the end, the system-driven person is far more likely to have a finished manuscript because they focused on building a routine instead of stressing about the outcome. The same principle applies to fitness. If your resolution is to lose 20 pounds, every day you haven't lost the weight yet feels like a failure. But if your system is to work out 3 times a week and plan healthy meals in advance, each time you complete those actions you succeed. The wins are immediate because the system itself is the success. Over time, those consistent wins create the outcome naturally. You don't need to chase the result comes as a byproduct of the system. One of the biggest benefits of systems is that they reduce the need for willpower. Goals rely heavily on self-control, which is unreliable. On the days you feel tired or stressed, willpower runs out. Systems remove decision-making from the equation. If you've built a routine that automatically guides you, you don't waste mental energy debating whether or not to follow through. For example, if you set up an automatic transfer into your savings account every payday, you don't need to decide to save money each time. It just happens. That's the power of systems. They turn good choices into default behavior. Another advantage is that systems create resilience. With a goal, setbacks feel devastating. If you fall short of the timeline or the number, you feel like you failed. With a system, setbacks don't destroy progress because the process is ongoing. Missing one workout doesn't ruin anything as long as you get back into your routine the next day. Eating one unhealthy meal doesn't matter when your system ensures the majority of your meals are balanced. Systems are flexible and forgiving, while goals are rigid and fragile. Focusing on systems also allows you to enjoy the process more. When you're obsessed with the outcome, you spend most of your time living in the gap between where you are and where you want to be. That constant feeling of not there yet drains your motivation. But when you focus on systems, every day becomes a chance to succeed. Each completed action is a small win that reinforces your confidence. Progress feels rewarding because you are living the identity and habits of the person you want to be instead of waiting until some distant finish line to feel good about yourself. Goals can inspire you, but systems sustain you. A goal points to where you want to go, but the system is what actually gets you there. Without the system, the goal is just a wish written on paper. With the system, progress becomes inevitable, and the results take care of themselves. When most people think about change, they imagine huge, dramatic efforts that completely transform their lives. They believe success requires giant leaps, intense sacrifices, and monumental willpower. But the truth is, lasting change doesn't come from big dramatic actions. It comes from small, consistent wins that compound over time. The mistake people make is underestimating how powerful tiny improvements can be when they are repeated day after day. A single push-up might feel meaningless, but if it becomes part of your routine and grows into 5, then 10, then 50, it completely changes your body over months. Reading 2 pages might feel insignificant, but if you read 2 pages every night, within a year you've finished multiple books. Saving just a few dollars at a time doesn't seem like much, but when done consistently, it turns into thousands. Small wins build momentum, and momentum is what keeps people moving forward long after motivation fades. The psychology behind small wins is simple. Success creates confidence, and confidence fuels action. When you set a huge, intimidating goal, the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels overwhelming. You tell yourself you'll never get there, and that discouragement leads to quitting. But when you set a small, almost laughably easy goal, you achieve it quickly. That quick win gives you a sense of progress. Progress makes you feel capable, and when you feel capable, you keep going. Each small step becomes proof that you're moving forward, and that proof builds belief in yourself. That belief matters far more than the size of the step. Another reason small wins are so effective is because they bypass resistance. The brain naturally resists change, especially big changes that demand a lot of energy and discipline. If you tell yourself you need to work out for an hour every day, your brain pushes back with excuses, and the effort feels overwhelming. But if you tell yourself you'll do one push-up, there's no real resistance because it's too small to fear. Once you start, momentum kicks in, and often you end up doing more than you planned. Small wins lower the barrier to action, making it easy to begin, and once you've begun, continuing feels natural. Small wins also shift your identity over time. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become. When you choose a small positive action, you cast a vote for that new identity. Flossing one tooth is a vote for being someone who takes care of their health. Writing one paragraph is a vote for being a writer. Saving $5 is a vote for being financially responsible. Individually, these votes may look tiny, but collectively they shape the story you tell yourself about who you are. Over weeks and months, these votes compound into an identity that sticks, and that identity makes the behavior feel natural rather than forced. It's also important to realize that consistency beats intensity. Doing something small every day will always outperform doing something massive once in a while. A single intense workout followed by a week of inactivity doesn't change your body, but 15 minutes of movement every day adds up. Writing 1,000 words once a month won't finish a book, but writing a few hundred words consistently will. Small wins create a rhythm that becomes part of your life, and that rhythm is what leads to long-term transformation. The beauty of small wins is they are sustainable. Big efforts usually lead to burnout because they demand too much too fast. Small steps fit easily into your life, and because they're sustainable, you keep doing them. Over time, they become habits, and once something is a habit, it requires almost no effort to maintain. That's when the real magic happens, because those small habits compound into extraordinary results that seem invisible in the moment, but undeniable in the long run. When people imagine transformation, they often picture it like a movie montage. Inspiring music plays in the background while they train harder, work longer, eat cleaner, and in a matter of weeks they become the person they've always wanted to be. This fantasy is exciting because it compresses months or years of effort into a highlight reel. But real life doesn't work like that. Real life is slow, repetitive, and often boring. Change doesn't come with fireworks or applause. It comes with ordinary, unglamorous choices made over and over again when no one is watching. That's why so many people quit their resolutions. They expect the journey to feel thrilling all the time, and when it doesn't, they assume they're doing it wrong. The truth is boredom is part of the process, and the ability to keep going when it feels boring is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. The reason boredom kills so many resolutions is because excitement fades quickly. At the beginning, the novelty of something new gives you energy. You feel a rush when you buy new gym clothes or start a new diet. But eventually the new becomes normal, and once the novelty is gone, you're left with the reality of repetition. Going to the gym for the 10th time doesn't feel special. Writing another page of your book doesn't feel groundbreaking. Preparing another healthy meal feels like a chore. This is the stage where most people fall off because they confuse the lack of excitement with a lack of progress. They think if it doesn't feel extraordinary, it must not be working. In reality, the boring repetition is exactly what creates results. Discipline is the ability to do the work even when it's not fun. People who achieve lasting success aren't motivated every day. They've simply accepted that boredom is part of growth. They understand that consistency matters more than intensity, and showing up matters more than feeling inspired. A runner doesn't wait to feel like running, they lace up their shoes because that's what they do. A writer doesn't wait for creativity to strike, they sit down at their desk and write anyway. A person saving money doesn't wait until they feel excited about budgeting, they follow their plan whether it's thrilling or not. Success is built on these unglamorous repetitions, not on the bursts of energy that come and go. There's also something powerful about embracing boredom. When you keep showing up, despite the lack of excitement, you develop resilience. You prove to yourself that you're capable of following through, not just when it's convenient, but when it's tedious. That proof builds confidence, and that confidence makes future challenges easier to handle. The boring actions you repeat become part of your identity, and once they're part of your identity, you no longer have to push yourself so hard. They become natural. The people who fail often chase constant stimulation. They want every workout to feel amazing, every writing session to feel inspired, every habit to feel fresh and new. The moment the excitement fades, they jump to something else in search of a new high. But the people who win stick with the boring process long enough to see the results compound. They understand that greatness is not the product of rare bursts of brilliance, but of countless ordinary actions performed with consistency. It's the boring stuff, the workouts no one sees, the hours of practice no one applauds, the quiet discipline repeated daily, that creates extraordinary outcomes.